All right, can you all see that screen?
Yes, yes, I can see it.
Okay, so let's get started. So okay, these models, we've got these models in the module folder, and you guys may have seen them already. We picked these because the teeth are really loose and undercut. So I don't know how well a splint is going to be for this patient, but oh, well, it's a tricky case because all of those little gaps and everywhere, you know. So maybe we do something interesting and do a lower splint. That would be quite good, I think. Or maybe we do a dual, a top and a bottom or something.
Or twin block appliance.
Yeah, you know, something, you know, for, you know, to shut the
Okay,
mouth or something.
for you.
Okay. So what do we do? First of all, you know, it's the same as a lab procedure. We make models first. So with the model designer, we make a model. So that's number one. The second one, the second thing we do in the lab or surgery or whatever, we need to articulate these things. Unless, of course, the dentist has taken up a bite registration and we've scanned it with a bite registration. And then, but we could still use articulate because we want to cut this thing in. We want to, you know, trim in the splint. So let's get going. So with the articulator, first thing we're going to do is we name this upper and we're going to name this lower model. And we can see the name appearing. There's 3 or 4 places where this name pops up. And also in the outliner, so it pops up there as well. So we're going to skip this with the face bow thing. We can briefly quickly go through the mounting table. That just imports a mounting table and we're looking at it from the front view, and then we can shift it a little bit. The lower model is hidden, but it's parented, so it does what the top model does. So there's a little line here. We can put this to the center, to the midline, and then from there we would like look at it from the side. So so we'll look at it from the right hand side, and then we can move the model to this little stopper here. This is like a stopper. We can view it from the bottom, and it goes like wireframe mode, and it's just basically so that we can shift this accordingly, you know, so that we can get a good, because when we bring in the condyles, we don't want the model to be like completely different. So we're trying to get it in the center, even better than the model designer does it. And then we unhide the lower model, and then we can delete the table. So the table is gone. We're happy with it. We can continue. Next thing we do is we're going to bring in some condyles, and that flips us to the front view. And then if we have a picture behind it or skull or something, we can shift these. But these are set at 110 millimeters apart, like a Caver articulator. So and they are in edit mode. So if you lose this, just click on A to select it again. So we basically want it selected. It is mirror image. So what we do on the right side, we do on the left side. But in the next update, we will switch everything to the left side because orthodontists love working on the other side. So we want to switch that over. Then what we're going to do is we're going to see it from the side view. And of course, if we had the condyle marked where the condyle is, we would have the photo of the face, and then we can shift it accordingly. And then following that, we're just going to click on accept. And then we've got a button here, delete condyles, but you've just created condyles, so you don't want to delete them. But you know, in case you want to get rid of the articulator, that's when you would delete the condyles and the photos. So this puts us into this position. Now these blue objects, we want to move these blue objects, and we're going to then click right inclination, and then we're going to copy this inclination. We can set this. We can set this to whatever default is 33 degrees, and we can set this one. But don't set the Y. We don't want the Y to be set at all.
Hey,
Okay,
Michael,
so
can you just expand your window a little bit for the menu, if that's okay?
Yeah, like this.
Yeah, I'll show you a sign. Just hold on. Did you get it?
Okay. The friendly sign, so that's good. So, okay, so we've got that 33 degrees and 15, but so this is the articulator eminence, the TMJ eminence, and we wanted to move down the slope. So, I mean, hypothetically, if you want to test it yourself and do something like this, like radically, you will see that this white condyle is going to, in fact, travel down exactly the same path. So we're going to set that on 33 degrees, and then we're going to copy this, and that just flicks the condyle, the white object into position. And we're going to do the same thing with this one, and we're going to copy this. So this is finished now. We've basically set up our articulator. We can get rid of this menu. And this is a good habit. Just whatever you don't need, just see what you need. Just grab the tools that you need. Next is the articulator constraints. And now with the articulator, it's a good idea to have a look at your timeline. Where's my timeline gone? All right, so this is the timeline. And first there's like 0, 1 to 250 frames. But the script cuts it down to, I don't know, how many is it? 5 or something. 5, I think. So if the dentist does open up the bite, this one will already be open, but it's not. So we're articulating it. We're going to now set it open, and this brings up our little object here, and our timeline has now 5 keyframes. So these are keyframes.
So you can zoom
0,
in and out there. Yeah.
Yeah, with the mouse wheel. 0 to 5 keyframes. If you click on anything else, you will lose the keyframes. You'll wonder where are they? So you need to click on this item, because the lower jaw is linked to this object. So the lower jaw is not animated at all. It's parented to this object. So here we're going to set this to, say, 3 millimeters on the X. Oh,
it's measured in degrees, isn't it, Michael? Degrees.
Yeah, degrees.
Yeah.
And that's opened it now at 6 millimeters. 0, 2, 4, and 6. So it's times 2. 3 degrees times 2 would be 6 millimeters. It's actually quite amazing how that works. That's also on an articulator. So if you'd open it up that. And then, of course, for a splint, we need to make sure that the back tooth, there's enough space. Yeah. And we can check this. If we want to, we can go one menu down, for example, and we can select the upper model, and we can create a thickness map if we want to, and then we can select the lower one like this, and then we can see the thinnest is 2 millimeters. So what you see highlighted in red is 2 millimeters thick. Everything, and when we shift it, you can actually see how it works. Okay, well, it doesn't, because I forgot to put the keyframe onto it. So that just records the open position. So we'll just get out of this, delete weight, and we'll go back to the constraints. So this is the constraint. You see, I haven't set a keyframe there. So I'm going to set this up at 3 degrees or 6 millimeters open and record it, apply keyframe. So this means now that it's been set. We can open and close it. Are there any questions so far about keyframes? It can be tricky at first, you know.
Yeah, one of the questions that often comes up is, why is it only 5 keyframes? Can I do more keyframes? This kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. So we can set more keyframes, but our cutting, when we cut our splint, we've got 13 cuts altogether. So we can't overdo it. You know, I've measured that each cut is like between 0.5 and 1 millimeter apart. So as the jaw moves, every millimeter is cut, and we don't need more than that, you know. So we've got 5 here.
And I suppose the more you have, the more complex the calculations, the longer it takes to actually get this dynamic cut sorted.
Exactly.
Mm.
So yeah, now what we're going to do is we want to set this open for good, because, you know, this is our open bite. But if the dentist, for example, has taken up a you know, an open bite, for example, this is how we would import it into the scene, and then we can do our articulator. Okay, so I'm going to click here, new location for lower. So what that does, it sets the lower and it gets rid of all the constraints. There's no constraints anymore. So we need to now do the constraints. I'm going to set open, but I'm going to leave it because we're not going to set it open. And I'm going to apply a keyframe. Now, when you see an orange line like that, that means that this keyframe is the same as this one. So it's basically a duplicate version, and it makes it like an orange line across there. Then I'm going to set the protrusive, and like an arrow appears, take the green arrow and move the jaw forward. And you can see how it moves according to the blue objects. So if we had our blue objects at different degrees, it would move on a different slope altogether. So here I'm only going to move it slightly forward, and then we're going to click on apply a keyframe. And then we're going to do the same on the right-hand side. And here we get to set a few values. If you want to do the Bennett side shift, for example, that would be the X. And Bennett side shift is about between 1 and 2 millimeters, you know, protruding outwards the jaw. So I'm going to put -1, for example. And then what I'm going to do in the Z value, I'm going to slide this across like that. And we're going to then apply keyframe. So what that does, on the top, the jaw moves to the left-hand side up here, and the jaw shifts at the same time. And of course, it moves down the condyle like this. And we'll do the same for the other side. I'll put a +1 here, and we're going to shift it on the Z value. Once you know which ones to adjust, then it becomes very easy.
So here's my question, Michael. So in this situation, do you always take the lower jaw to the end point where you want the lower jaw to end, and then you press keyframe, and that hits the number 5 keyframe?
Yeah, that's right.
And
we never set the 0.
You don't go 1, 2, 3. You always take it to the maximum until it disengages to a point. Hit the keyframe button, and that's going to be your number 5 and final position. And then you can do intervals in between that.
Yes, right. But for this example, we've opened the jaw. So if we would have the jaw clenched in centric relation, and then we want to set the movements, that's completely different, because we want to get the movement according to the curvature of the top anterior teeth, for example.
That's right.
So, you know, that's very different, because then we would set the mesh according to, but we can discuss that some other time, because we've got quite a. Are there any questions with the articulator so far? Because we've basically finished our animation for the articulator. No, nothing.
No, I
So,
think I've unmuted everybody, but all
okay,
right. Otherwise, just
we've
type
got,
away. Just put in the chat box, and I can relay it to Michael, the question.
okay, now Control Z, no, not Control Z, Control X is our articulator. So you just click View Navigation, and that brings up like a little screen where we can view our articulator, what's happening. All right. So the speed, yeah.
Actually, you are putting the mandibula into 2 millimeters higher position in the molar region.
Yes.
This is like,
Yeah.
this is like a starting point.
Yes.
And start from there. You are evaluating the articulation in the sequences, in the scenes, and so on. And
yeah.
when you finish your articulator move,
yeah.
in this 2 millimeter higher occlusion, is there eventually a possibility that you reduce the vertical dimension for 1.5 or something, and the move, do you need to make all the sequences again after reducing, or this is the main point of the procedure is actually to start to define how much millimeters you want?
Well, yeah, that's right. So we can change it if we want to. If you want to change anything, the way to change that, you go to the articulator and you see, okay, you click on View Centric. Then you, in the articulator constraints, you can set it back. You can close it now, and then you hit the apply keyframe.
Yeah.
So you can change it if you want to. So if I, for example, change it like a little bit less, then I click on apply keyframe, and then that will assume a new position.
So you don't need to make the move again in the click regarding the articulation also if you change the vertical dimension. Once you do it, it's done.
Yeah, once you've set it, it's done. It's like in the laboratory, you've got the articulator, you've set it, you've opened up the bite and everything. It's done.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so from here we will then continue, and I'll just set this in to make a splint. Usually I'll put this in view protrusive so that we can see the articulator going down like this. Now, the next thing is I want to hide the articulator, which you can do over here by clicking on the eye, because, you know, if you have too many things in the scene can be a bit scary sometimes, especially with the outliner window. You know, sometimes you've got like a lot of things happening here. So after we've done this, we would need to block out the model. Now, we go to the block out module, and let's make a lower splint, for example. So I'm going to take the lower model, and I'm going to say, okay, this is name lower, which we already have. It's name lower. It's moving according to the articulator, and we're going to create an offset. Now that flicks up a blue model, and you can see the offset is 0.2 millimeters. If you are milling, for example, you know, it's more accurate. Printing, you know, with milling, you can get away with less, but this is for you to experiment how much space you need on the inside to make it fit properly. We've tested it with 0.2. It seems to be quite good.
Also, Michael, on that note, by offsetting the opposing, later on when we have our crown and bridge module, and you, for example, you're constructing a zirconia crown, by offsetting the opposing, you can set a bit of a clearance, because as we do our dynamic cut on the crown, the occlusal adjustment with an offset model, you'll get that slight clearance space that you need for the bite, because it is a topic out there that zirconia crowns can sometimes be quite sort of high in bite. So this is a way you can go around it.
That's correct. Okay, so we're going to apply this, and then it brings us into like a voxel remesh mode, and then we get to see how fine do you want your mesh to be. Now you can set this at 0.3 if you want to, and you can see it live changing. But I would probably say the more accurate we can get it, the better. If you do 0.1, you know, if I go 0.1, it is maybe a little bit fine. So I've done 0.1. Have it disappeared? No.
No, you haven't. So at 0.1, the file becomes bigger, doesn't it, Michael?
Yeah, it does become bigger. The Boolean cuts become more complicated. So, you know, we try and get what's, you know, what works. And, you know, 0 point seems to work, but you guys may want to experiment differently. I don't know. So this is up to you. And then we're going to finish this model. Now, this model is, we call this model the offset model. So if you're making something like a mouth guard, for example, and you want to engage all of the undercuts with a flexible material, you would stop here. This is your model. This is your number one model. So with splints, we need to think about undercuts. You know, this is very important. So we're going to click on survey the lower, and then we get to move it from the top, like we do in the laboratory. We look at it from the top, and we see, okay, what's the best path of insertion? And once we've got that, we mark the lower undercuts. And then this gives us an indication of how these undercuts look. And you may want to change it at this stage. So using the X and Y field, you can move this up or down, and then you can mark it again to mark the new undercuts. So you can set this accordingly. All right. But don't do the Z, because we're not going to flip it around this way. It's either X or Y, not the Z axis. Okay. And then from there, create passive model. And I may just disappear for a second. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Am I back?
Yep.
So number two model, voxel size, we finish it. All right. And so then this one is good for implant guides, for example. For splint, we need to engage it. We need an engaging model. So this is number two. So adjust dynamic undercuts. We're going to click on this. Now, this is a default of 0 minus. This is always a minus value. And basically what it is, it's a model inside of a model. So if I set this on 0, for example, it is the same model, but it is a little bit simpler in mesh structure. Yeah, that's because we're shrinking it. All right, so we're going to shrink it to minus 0.4. You can. So this is where you need to decide how much undercut you want to engage. If you've got splints, for example, they are too loose, then set this less. Make it minus 0.1 or minus 0.2, or so minus 0.5. Okay, the higher we go, the more it's blocked out. Okay, and then after that we apply this offset. Now you can go with that. That's fine if you want. If you're happy with that, go with it. If you want to control this even more, you can then sculpt these undercuts. So you can add, or you can take away. You can use a minus and say, okay, let's engage a little bit more over here. You can think, okay, maybe let's block out a little bit more over here. So it's flexible. And then from there, we exit the sculpting mode, and then we're going to create the retentive model. And this joins the orange model with the white model. And we're going to finish this model. All right. So here we've got 3 models that have been made. We're going to choose one. So we're going to choose the retentive model. The other ones I'm going to delete. We don't need them. The reason why I'm deleting them is to make space for Blender, because we don't want it to slow down. Okay. So are there any questions regarding this now? I hear someone talking.
Yeah, no, not sure. Yeah. No, I think we're all good there, Michael. So you just keep the one model and get rid of the others to free up space. You don't want Blender to slow down.
Yeah, so now we've got a new model, but it's not linked to the animation. We need it to link to the animation. Now we're going to create our splint. Oh gosh, I don't have my splint module installed. Sorry. Wolf can just take over for me.
Should I show you the finger?
Okay, just give me a second.
Teach us how to install modules while you're there.
No, that's not part of the curriculum. I think I've got it somewhere. No, I don't. Okay, I'll just swap screens. Okay, well, so just give me a second there.
Well, I could just show you how I do the cheater box for splints. Well, how much time do we have, Michael?
Well, I'm almost here. I've just got to bring this in.
Because how do you print these splints? That's another question. You know, which way around?
That's great.
There's quite a few ways to do it.
What is your recommendation there?
I think every situation. I don't like waiting so long for the print. So I usually go horizontally down. I don't like going vertical. It takes hours.
Okay, I'm done. Do you want to continue or?
No, go for it.
All right, so I've just got to share the screen. All right, here we go. Okay, so here we've got the splint module. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to name this. We're working with 2 objects in the splint model. We're working with the target model, and we're working with the layer. That's basically the only 2 that matter. So we've got our blocked out model, which is called retentive model lower. And now we're going to call this target model. Make sure you click on this and not on any other one. And you can see which one is blocked out. So don't click on anything else. And then name this target model. So everything else disappears because we want to be able to concentrate on what we are doing. And here I'm going to shift right click to place my cursor, and I'm going to draw the line. So from here, now it is, oh, this should be moved. Oh yeah, we need to link it to the animation. Sorry. So I'll select this and link this to the animation, and then it's moving with the animation. And we need to move this with the animation because later on we're going to be cutting it. So you know, it's got to move with it. So I'll just, I mean, so it depends on how you want to make this. It's a good idea to engage undercuts where you want. See, we'll go down.
Which kind of a hard material would you suggest for hard plane? Which should be like 1.5, 1.6 millimeter high.
I've used, have you heard of Pro 3D Ure?
Pro 3D.
Pro
No,
3D URE. They've got some really good resins. Other people, you've used Splint Soft. Have you heard of that? Splint Soft?
No, so far, I mean, now I started to print the models with Blender recently.
Yes.
Before I was using the printer for plastic before the casting in non-precious alloys. I mean, I was designing in InLab. So to say, if I have some non-precious bigger work or something, I was using the printer just for that. But recently I started with so to say, making the models, but I'm still not completely satisfied. Maybe something with the redesign, which I'm using is not correct, or with the settings. I don't know, because I've done few tests so far. But this is the topic after the because I might have few questions more regarding the model design topic.
Yeah. Let's touch on that when Michael's done. We can go through those scenarios.
So we'll click trim, select from the mesh you want to keep, and then click on clean. So this gives us another layer over the top, and you'll notice that it is called layer. So always make sure that it's correct. And then we're going to click on make layer. This gives us a solid layer, and this is, it says 4 millimeters, and it's not well, it is 4 millimeters, but it's 4 millimeters because it goes inside. So from one wall to the other, it's 4 millimeters. So if you want to splint 3 millimeters thick, then you're going to have to set this to 6 millimeters. Or if you want it, you know, less, 1.5 millimeters, set it to 3 millimeters. So it's always double. All right. So you'll notice that the meshes are intersecting, and it's all, it's not good the way it is, but well, that's taken care of. So from here on, we then select, we can display it. It's not a nice mesh because it's been solidified. We can see it in the wireframe mode, which is very helpful because you can see how thick it is. So you can look through it, or the texture mode. And then what we're going to do is we're going to accept this layer. Now that puts like a smooth modifier to it. So it's already smoothed it a little bit, but not exactly to my specifications. So from there on, we're going to then click on smooth layer, and we'll just give it a quick brush over. I mean, this doesn't have to be major. And if you want the brush to have more effect, right click it, and you can set this to 0.3. Yeah, and then it has more of an effect to it. So you can just clean up the edges a little bit like this, and that should be okay. Following that, we will then click on exit, which will then remesh it. So this is another remeshing cycle that has happened. And when I look through the splint at this stage, you can see we've got a nice layer happening already. Okay. Now you get to set your voxel size again. You can set this at fine. Like for example, if you're making, you can make a chrome Kawa partial with the splint module. And that would be like 0.1 or even less, because we're focusing on very thin and small layers. But for a model, we will just leave this at 0.4. That should be sufficient. And then you click on Finish Layer. So our layer is complete, except that we still got it coming through. And we need to stress that the very last thing is we're going to cut the fitting surface, not before then. So, you know, that's a last procedure we're doing, is to cut the fitting surface. So any questions so far? Wolfgang, maybe you've got a question.
No, I don't really have a question. Sometimes people think, we've seen some users take the splint higher because you've taken it quite low down. You know, I've seen many splints that have been created where sort of midsection of the molar, but
Yeah.
this is really entirely up to you where you take the splint to, the finish line. But bear in mind that you've got to have some undercut grip on the splint. Otherwise, it's just going to fall out.
Yeah, and that's, you don't want to have a patient coming back to you and saying, oh, my splint keeps on falling out. Because that's just, you can always take away, but to add, you can't add, you know. So I would always think, engage the undercuts that you've got, especially young people. You know, some youngsters don't have any undercuts.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, what do we do? We've seen, we've made splints where you've got absolutely no undercuts. So do we use the patch up tool in the model designer, or to cut a sphere, you know, like an Adam's quib, where we can actually remove some of the gum interproximately to try and hypothetically create a bit of a clipping mechanism?
Yeah. I've made a video of that before, where we actually place like a little sphere there. And then cut it out to get rid of some gum.
Yeah, so that might just aid to help hold the splint in position.
Exactly. So now you'll note that it's not connected to the animation. Just select it and link selected to animation. We've got a few of these buttons around, so as soon as you do that, then it links to the animation. So the next thing is, we've opened it, but we want to, we can decide how thick do we want the splint to be? Where shall it disengage? You know, we can cut it like this and we'll have like small little indents, or do we actually want a gliding surface, you know? So let's put a rim in here, yeah? So first thing is we're going to do is we're going to close everything down here, and we're going to go to the Occlusal Rims. So select it, shift right click, and then draw the line, yeah? And using the G key and the E key, we can then draw a line. So let's say we do one on each side, just to make it interesting. So we'll just do one on one side and one on the other side. So we're going to close this loop, and then what we're going to do is we're going to click make single rim. Now this extrudes downwards, because usually we do an upper splint. So don't be alarmed, you know, just grab this blue line and just pull it up, okay? And for those of you that have the splint, I've made a few updates today. So just click update module. like for example, this one there's a subdivision surface modifier to it. So it looks a little bit different to what we had beforehand. So here we get to see, okay, oh, well, let's just do it somewhere like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to unify this to the layer. So click on Unify, and that'll unify. But we don't have to do this. We can exit edit mode, and then we can continue on this side. So we can draw the rim on this side. We close it up, and then we do the same. Make a single rim, pull it up, yeah. And then what we're going to do is we're going to then unify that as well. So we're going to, now we're going to unify both, because it takes both of them, and it's going to unify to layer. All right. So now the mesh doesn't look all too hot here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a quick smooth over. All right, so what's important is that we get nice clean meshes going on everywhere for printing and milling and so on. So that's looking good. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click on Exit. All right, so we've got our voxel remesh, and we're going to click on Finish Layer. All right, so we've got a nice looking rim in cross section. We've got it standing up like this. Yeah, we've got, yeah, and then last thing, two more things to do. We can cut it. So I'm going to go back to the articulator, and we're going to then go to the articulator cutting tools. Now the top model is our object making the cut. And here, Wolfgang, this is what you were talking about.
Yeah, yeah. So offsetting the model.
Please do not forget to click Apply Offset. This is extremely important. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get just like a wedge that's been cut. You can still rescue it, but just click on Apply Offset. And then following that, we're going to select the splint, and this is now our object being cut. So click on that, object being cut. And then what we're going to do is we can cut all movements, or we can cut one movement, or we can cut the left or the protrusive. So we get to decide. So let us cut all movements. Cut all movements. So I may just fade out here for a second, I think.
Yeah. So Michael, this is taking all the key points into consideration on the animation timeline to do the cut.
Yeah, yeah. So everything has been, all the, I'll hide the articulator. And if I hide this model, you can see, wow, this person has really done some mean chewing. Yeah, like chewing gum. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that, you know, if we look at how this is cut, and you know, I love this. I absolutely love it. because we've got cuts going exactly like the articulator, so we can get to see exactly cut in every single direction. So I can look anywhere, and we can see over here, for example, you know, it's all being cut according to our movements. And you know, our jaw is at rest in some way, because you know, it's as it moves down the condyle, you know, it's all been
calibrated.
cut. It's all been cut. Yeah, occlusally it's been cut. So then what we would do, we don't want to print it like that, because we're going to be polishing by hand like for a whole hour or something. So we can polish that on the computer, you know. So I'm going to then just click on, just use any one of these smooth layers. There's quite a few smooth layers. So click on smooth layer, and then we will just smooth it. But this one is a little bit, the auto smooth is a little bit too harsh, I found. So default is 0.1, make it 0.2, make it 0.1, or even less, because then you're not going to destroy, you know, what you've cut. So you can quickly go over this, yeah, and you will know that you're not going to damage your nice surface. So I would recommend putting it down a little bit, but then for the edges, I would say put it maybe to 0.3, and then you can just smooth it down over here like this, especially over there. Smooth it down, bring that down like that. We don't want to sit, you know, stand at the lathe with pumice and all that stuff. So if we can avoid that, that would be good. Now it still looks a little bit wavy, but you know, this is the beauty of this type of splint, because we've got it cut according to the articulation of the mouth. So you can spend more time on that. For now, I'll leave that. Exit. It's going to remesh it here. Yeah. And then we're going to finish this layer. And lastly, the very last thing is we're going to now cut our fitting surface, which is called the target model. But it's changed its name, because in the articulator, it's called object being cut. So if you try and do this and it doesn't cut, you will know that you need to call this target model. Sorry, you need to call this layer. So you just click on name layer. So it's name layer. So it's layer minus target model. And then from there, we cut the fitting surface. And we've got our nice, beautiful little splint here. I'll just grab a cross section of it. This is our other model. This is our fitting model. This is our model that engages into the undercut. You can see how it's been blocked out over here. Yeah. So it's only just engages into the undercut, and then it disengages. Okay. Good. Any questions so far?
No, it's pretty good, Michael.
Yeah, actually, the beginning you started with a matter of full millimeter, keeping in mind the how penetrate into your working model, so to say, if I understood correctly.
Wolfgang, I didn't quite hear that. Could
Yeah.
you?
Now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, so at the beginning of the process, when you started the splint design, you actually gave a dimension of also thickness of the splint to be a bit higher because of knowing that at the first stage the splint will penetrate each half of measure into the model, or?
Yeah, you double your value because it penetrates halfway into the model. That's
Yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And the last part you are doing, so you are defining a new not target, new layer, so to say, which is previous model. So the main model minus, yes, I understood why. The procedure, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Cool.
So, yeah. So we are finished with a nice clean fitting surface and the outside surface, and this would be then ready to print.
Right. Yeah.
Did you have some questions on the actual printing of something like this? How to print it or how to slice it or?
Michael, you had Michael, you had mentioned earlier that you updated the module. Is the
Yes.
module, is it just a module update or is it also a menu update as well?
No, it's just update module and that's it. So what I've done is I've taken some of the transparency out because I've found that a bit annoying, to be honest. It looks nice, but I've taken that away, especially when we're doing the occlusal rim. And I've put a few other codes in there so that when you're drawing the line of the lower rim, it automatically attaches to the animation, which is really cool. But it wouldn't affect our tutorials because you can still click on the link to animation. So there's just a few things that I've done. It's not that noticeable, but there's just a few things. Yeah. So a lot of you may not really have delved into the occlusal plane cutter. I don't know. This is something, you know, that we're using for a dual splint. For how much time have we got left, Wolfgang? Do you know?
Well, it's 10 o'clock on the dot for us. So we've done 1 hour now.
Maybe I can quickly run through a double one. It won't take me that long. If you're happy for me to do that, otherwise we leave it for some other time.
You could, that'd be great.
All right, okay, so let's just run through this. So we've got this articulated. I will, for a dual splint, we would need an upper and lower block type model. So I'm going to, I won't explain what I'm doing.
Can you just, to save time, just do it on these models? Is that possible?
Yes,
or do you want to?
That's what, no, I'll do it on these models.
Okay, yeah.
Just to make things faster, I'll just use the passive model for this, because even with a dual splint, it could be a good idea just to use a passive for now.
Okay.
All right, so that's one. I'll just do the other one. We've got an engaging here, so that's fine. We can use that one. I'll delete the other one. X delete. Hide the we can hide the articulator. This one we can delete. So we've got that one. Yeah, that one and this one. Yeah, that should work. Splint. Oh, okay. So let's just make an upper splint. We'll call this target model.
Can you use a paint on layer, Michael? On this one quickly.
Yeah, I can. Paint on. Make sure it's called target model, and then we'll just paint on a layer. So with our implant guide module, we're focusing on the paint on layer. I won't really go into that now.
So the things to look out for here is that you don't make any holes. You've got to sort of seal the entire surface.
Well, yeah, but I've got a bit of an algorithm there that it does detect a few little holes and it fills it automatically. So if you do make a mistake, something like this, you know, it does, but it's a good idea not to miss anything. So we've got it all laid out here. If you want to take away, just say you make a mistake, oops, like that, then just use the minus sign. The minus sign will then get rid of your mistake. And then the plus sign will add. And of course, this layer is also double thick, so it's 4 millimeter, but in fact, the layer is 2 millimeters thick. We'll just leave it as is like this, and we're going to then click on accept layer. And again, we can give it a quick smooth.
So here you're just focusing on sort of the borders when you're smoothing, or in between the teeth as well.
No, just the borders.
So after you hit the exit button, you always get the remesh option.
Yes, yes. Okay, so that's one. We will grab the lower model. We'll just do that. Now with the lower model, you're going to have to call it, again, target model, because this becomes now the target model. We'll just do a quick layer.
Yeah. So after this, you always have to click the link selection to animation button, Michael.
Well,
Except
I've
now
got
with the new
al-
algorithm, you've changed
Yeah,
it.
with the new algorithm, it's parented directly. So if you do forget to link it, don't worry about it. But, you know, so it does link it. Except if your target model is not linked, then it's not going to link. All right, we'll just trim this and clean it. And we're going to make a layer as well. Accept that. Right, there we go. Okay, we're good to go. Exit and finish. Finish layer. So now we've got two. Alt H to unhide. So let's put a byte block in between these two. So I'm going to select the lower, shift right click to place my cursor, and we're going to go to draw outline. But before that, make sure this one is called opposite, name opposing. All right, so this, we need this because it's going to jump. The line's going to jump from the bottom to the top.
Do you use a dual rim there? Dual rim or single?
No, for this one, we're not going to do a single one.
Oh, okay, I thought you pressed that single rim button. Okay.
No, just I clicked on
Oh, okay.
Draw outline. So okay, we're going to select this. Now what happens is we're going to then click connect outline with opposing.
That's where you use it. Okay.
And did you see how it jumps?
Yeah.
It duplicates it and it jumps to the top. Yep. And then from there we can click make dual rim. All right. So that's going to put a rim in between. So we're going to do the same for the other side. So I'm going to click on draw rim outline. And we're going to make this thing jump again. So from here, connect outline with opposing. Now it's not going to jump if the top one is not called opposing. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make dual rim. And then after that, we're going to unify both of these together. Unify dual to layer. That's going to remesh it, and it's going to join the two together like this. Yeah. Oh, we've got a little bit of a join here, but that doesn't matter. We're going to smooth that down. Yeah, that's got a little bit of a, we'll just leave it for now. That's okay.
Like a monoblock.
Yeah. So again, we'd like to get a nice clean mesh. If you want that little piece, you can cut away, or you can use a, well, it's the first time it's ever happened to me. So see this silly little thing, doesn't matter, all good. So from there, they are both joined, and they are both joined in the number 5 position because I've set it to the number 5 position. So the lower jaw is in the protrusive position, like a night splint, for example. This is a good way of making night splints or twin block appliances and so forth. So, all right, so we're going to just exit this, and we're going to just mesh this and click on finish layer. Good. So following this, now we're going to head into this menu here, Splint Occlusal Plane Cutter. So I'm going to be choosing my lower target model, or my lower model, and I'm going to then say select model for plane. So this allows me now to select it, and then we're going to be drawing a plane. So using the G key, I'm going to set these on the highest points of the teeth.
So here it doesn't matter if it cuts through the actual incisal of the teeth.
Because it's not a, it's not, we're not performing a Boolean cut on the actual model. So basically what we want to do is we want to get the occlusal plane. Yeah, and that occlusal plane will then be used for cutting these two blocks, you know, the splint. So from here, we're going to say, okay, make occlusal plane. So this gives us an object like this. And basically what we want to do is we want to put these on, onto the cusps. So this doesn't have to be 100% precise, but we want to design an occlusal plane cutter, a cutting tool that goes on the occlusal plane. So we're just going to set a few points. That should be okay. That should be fine. Yeah. And then from here, we're going to make our cutting tool. Yeah. So what this has now done, it's created a tool that is halfway between our top and our bottom. So we get to set this like halfway, and this becomes our cutting tool. Yeah. So here we can then cut the layer. Yeah. So this is called layer, and this is our cutter, and we're going to cut the layer. So it's made a clean cut through it. Now, obviously, with this, I'll clean that up, or we don't. That's fine.
Can you use a sculpting afterwards?
Yeah. So we can hide all of these, and then we can give it a quick. We can smooth it down quickly. So I'll set this to 0.3 to get a little bit more of an effect, and we'll just give it a quick smooth down. Like that. So note we've got a few bits and pieces here, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one. We'll exit that, and we'll just do the other one. Finish. I'll just select these two pieces and X delete. And then for the other one, we'll do this as well. Control I is to select the inverse. What's going on with that thing? There's a hole in my thing. Oh, well. That's okay. Yeah, well, that's not okay. It's taken my whole thing away. Yeah. All right, so that shouldn't have happened. I'll just exit here. Yeah. Yeah, well, let's, oh well. Yeah, we've got a little hole there. All right, so this doesn't usually happen. So this is just Murphy's Law. I don't know why this happened. So. Okay. I'll just block up this hole, models, fill hole.
So you're just using the fill holes button.
Yeah, so I've just taken the modifier away just done the fill hole, and then we're good to go again. So it's just a little bit of
thinking outside the box.
Thinking outside the box. So I've filled the hole. That's all good. Exit, and this should then give me a nice mesh and finish the layer. Yeah. And then lastly, what we're going to do is we're going to cut these objects, and I would definitely then say we're not going to use target and layer, because we've got two target models and we've got two layer models. So in this event, I would say use these here. So it's select object being cut, and then we're going to use the dropper and drop it on this one, and then we're going to apply that one, and then what we're going to do is we're going to use the other one, select this one, becomes the object being cut, use the dropper, and then we're going to apply that cut, and then it's finished. So if you had some attachments, you could then put these attachments onto your layer, and then you can put an attachment over here, like a sleep apnea appliance, a snore appliance, and then you've got your two attachments on either side. And that concludes our dual splint. It's pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I think it's looking good, Mike. You pulled out of that one all right.
No team view assistance here.
I've recorded it so we can explain it more in detail later.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just get to ask the silly questions. So it's all right.
Yeah.
No, well done.
So cool. Good stuff.
So, of course, from here, you'd be able to do twin blocks and things. Have you got a video for twin block?
I don't think we have one, do we? I don't know. Once a guide module is out, then maybe we can make a twin block. I think we didn't want to put a twin block out there because we may just get inundated with questions. Remember, I told you maybe we should rather not do that yet.
I made a video with not twin blocks, but it had these attachments external to the dual splint. Actually, somebody's got this on our Facebook group as well. It looks quite cool. So you got external attachments.
Yeah, look, the splint design is more than just doing splints. We've done temporaries with it, and we've done a chrome cobalt sintered with SLM. And there's quite a bit. We're going to have like a metal framework tutorial coming out soon as well, using the splint module.
Yeah, and of course little Maryland wings and fixed bands and things like that.
And of course, it's the foundation of the denture module, because we need a layer, and then we're going to be joining teeth and gum onto that layer. So the splint module will become very handy there. Good. So I think I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Yeah, okay. Get out of there. So it's 20 past. Great. Do we have any questions on that, or something you want to ask or unclear about?
I have a difficulty with the sound. I don't know. I mean, sound from your side recently. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Sound, yeah, we can. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So I want to refer to